Respecting law and order. Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe expects the Attorney General to follow through on bond inquiry report findings. Calls are also made for impartial consideration of the report.
Once you colour it with a political flavour, right, you are looking at it from a partisan approach.
SITEM abolished. All SITEM assets, liabilities, staff and students will be transferred to a non-state, not-for-profit degree awarding entity. Another revelation on the Wilpattu deforestation. 2 sets of houses for 1 cadre of beneficiaries. Approximately 1,000 houses in a town in Puttlam neglected. Mental game. As part of Chandika Hatrusinghe's plan to revamp the national cricket team, Australian psychologist Dr. Phil Jauncey commences work. Trump breaks with ex-chief strategist. The US president says former White House aide Steve Bannon lost his mind when he lost the job. Good evening and welcome to First at 9. I'm Dhammika Ekanaika. Now in your lead story this evening, the Prime Minister's office today extended its gratitude towards the efforts of the Presidential Commission of Inquiry, which probed the central bank bond issuances with a mandate across 10 months. Issuing a special statement, it said that the Prime Minister requested the Attorney General in December 2016 to present legal recommendations on responsible persons implicated in the controversial bond issue, as well as on regulatory framework on central bank bond issuance. It highlights the Prime Minister vesting the responsibility of taking legal measures over the bond issuance on the Attorney General's department back in December of 2016, while the President doing the same this year. Prime Minister's office emphasises their expectation of the Attorney General's department taking necessary legal measures in the future. The statement goes on to say that such action portrays the democratic and law-abiding nature of the government of good governance. It also said that as per recommendations by the Commission of Inquiry, the government expects to take legal action on fraudulent activities dating from 2008 following an investigation. Now, in a follow-up of the President's statement on the report of the Presidential Commission of Inquiry into the issuance of Treasury bonds, today we focus on the recommendations made to the central bank going forward. In its recommendations, the Commission had suggested some key adjustments to the monetary regulator, one of which being the setting up of a legal department. The report made various recommendations as well as revealing those accountable behind several questionable transactions.
Reading out the statement, the President said the Commission recommends that members of Monetary Board and Central Bank Governor must be appointed by the Constitutional Council in concurrence of the members, that the regulations must be amended accordingly. The report also recommends that there should be highest levels of supervision over Public Debt Department. The Commission recommends that the Audit Department must be reorganised completely, as auditing at the Central Bank has not been conducted in a proper manner. Additionally, it proposes that a legal department must be established within the central bank and ensure that it functions efficiently. The Commission also recommends EPF transactions be looked while taking measures to restructure it. Another recommendation is the introduction of a code of conduct for officials of the central bank, while the code of conduct for primary dealers must be revised and updated. The Commission observes that the confidentiality, astuteness and auditing methods of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka were extremely weak during the mandate of the Commission. In its report, the Commission welcomed the move to install telerecording systems, electronic monitoring and CCTV, which it says was lacking during the Commission's mandate. Delivering a special statement yesterday, President Maithripala Sirisena said that he expects the Governor of the Central Bank to make a statement in the near future regarding the shortcomings at the Central Bank as revealed in the Commission report. The President urged the Ministry of Justice and the Attorney General to take early steps to draft the 3 bills proposed by the Commission and present them to Parliament in order to make required changes at the Central Bank to ensure such corrupt practices, frauds and malpractices do not happen in the future.
The revelations made in the final report of the Presidential Commission of Inquiry drew various views from politicians, with some lauding the report while others remaining sceptical. The report of the Commission mentions that if a loss was incurred to the general public by these fraudulent activities, the sum will be recovered and returned to the Treasury for the first time in the country's history. Most of the accusations levelled by the Commission of Inquiry to investigate serious acts of fraud and corruption are against former ministers who represented SLFP at the time. Sri Lanka Freedom Party is going to suggest the President to convene the Parliament and to have a debate on both the commissions. A head of state has never intervened in issues like this.
President has always stood against corruption, and it's a good indicator to show that the head of the state would do everything possible, have a presidential commission to deal with any forms of corruption in any matter, irrespective of whatever political party. Once you color it with a political flavor, right, you are looking at it from a partisan approach. I respectfully state that this should not be looked from a partisan approach. This should be looked from a nationalistic approach.
It's true that the issuance of the report is important. What people expect is punishment of those made culpable in the report. Those who are accused are not yet punished. As per our experience, although the President says he will punish, he has never done that. We do not accept this loss calculated by the Commission. It does not count the influence on the foreign reserves, state debt and investments. I stated in Parliament that the entire loss incurred by the country is 2,000 billion rupees and it can't be rounded off at 11 billion. Ranil Wickremesinghe is the creator of this. The President appointed the Commission knowing this. We can't let such fraud happen again. As the Sri Lanka Freedom Party, we are going to convene the Parliament and take up this issue to debate. The Attorney General will take necessary steps. Did that happen during the previous government? What the former president did was to have files of fraud and scare ministers without taking action.
This is what you call good governance. Those who commit fraud can be in the private sector and they can commit fraud using the government and incur losses, but we have never hesitated to punish them.
The report is of no consequence to the UNP. They can file action against Perpetual Treasuries Limited, but they cannot file cases against the UNP. There has been no accusations against the members of the UNP who testified before the Commission. Ravi Karunanayake is accused, but it's only an accusation and he will go before court and prove his innocence. They're doing this to punish officials and send the case of Ravi Karunanayake to the Bribery Commission and rid him of allegations by filing the case in a manner that charges cannot be proven. Then they will also absolve the Prime Minister as well. As I think, the loss is a lot more than this. I see this as a loss between 500 billion rupees to 1,000 billion rupees. Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe says the government is focused on restructuring the entire school syllabus based on science. Addressing an event held at Templetrees today, the Premier added that the subject of information technology will also be given prominence.
A workshop was conducted for principals and education officers on the use of mobile laboratories under the auspices of Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe today.
In a few months, we will be distributing 150,000 laptops among every school from grade 6 onwards. I also wish to announce that we have completed the necessary arrangements to distribute laptops to all teachers and O-level students. Very soon, we will have a syllabus that will consist of 6 subjects instead of 9 subjects for GCE ordinary levels. This will revolutionize the education system. By taking such measures, we will have a syllabus that will be heavily influenced by technology and science. I do not think any school system in Asia has paid this much attention to science in its syllabus. In this very same hall, we also launched the Suasarya program. Through these 2 programs, we can see where this government places health and education. Election monitoring body PAFREL says that so far 183 cases related to election law violations are reported, and out of which 25 incidents are related to violence. Speaking to First at 9, Executive Director of PAFREL, Rohana Hettiarachchi, elaborated on the incidents.
There were about 20 cases reported misuse of the government resources and the government power. They have reported 42 cases giving various kind of bribes for the people by the candidate and the political parties. And the rest of the cases are related to illegal propaganda activities that is reported all over the country. And also today we got the information about in Pothuil area, the Pothuil DS division, one of the ministers trying to use their parliamentary allocated money, trying to distribute sewing machine, bicycle, blender, grinder, the various kind of goods. And these people were selected by the candidate. So we informed the Elections Commission and we urged them to stop this distribution during the elections period. And also we have reported one incident today that misusing the government vehicle in Southern Provincial Council, assaulting cases reported in Vaunia. We wish to request all the political parties as well as the candidate to consider elections law and the guidelines issued by the Elections Commission.
Meanwhile, several politicians expressed views on the upcoming local government election.
Although this is a Pradesha Sabha election, the goal of this election is not to appoint members for Pradesha Sabhas. The government was supposed to hold this election 3 years ago, but they didn't. Ultimately, they had to when there was no other choice. This won't change the government or the country's leader. However, it will decide on the direction the country should go. Only the public and not the leaders can topple the government. I don't think the president can work with a leader such as Mahinda Rajapaksa. He wouldn't even dream of it, and we won't let him do it either. We will leave the government if he comes. I don't know how he will though. Numerous houses constructed by Minister Rishad Badiuddin intended for those displaced by the conflict are currently neglected and are weed-ridden. Other Derana looked into the matter to ascertain the reasons behind it. Approximately 1,000 houses are constructed in the town of Al-Kazimi in Puttlam by the Minister of Commerce and Industry Rishad Badiuddin. It is reported that they are funded by donations from the Middle East. When other Derana visited the area, approximately 500 of those houses were seen weed-ridden.
I believe this should be brought to the attention of the President. Even though it is said that displaced people live in these houses, it's not true and their residents have money.
People who feared expressing their views in public told us that house owners in Al-Kazimi are given more houses while destroying the Vilattikulam Reserve, which surrounds the Wilpattu Reserve. Minister Badiuddin was accused of arbitrary resettlement in the Vilattikulam Reserve by the Auditor General's report, which was handed over to the President recently. Now, in an effort to give the CITEM issue a permanent solution, the government today decided to carry out the legal process towards abolishing CITEM through the creation of 2 entities, both in compliance with the minimum standards. Thereby, a new not-for-profit sunset institution will absorb all students who are in CITEM medical program, as well as its assets and liabilities. Meanwhile, a new not-for-profit Sunrise institution that will start accepting new students will be set up. Issuing a communiqué, the government said that the solution was unanimously approved by the 9-member committee appointed by the President and chaired by Deputy Minister of National Policies and Economic Affairs Dr. Harshali Silva, and includes secretaries of Ministries of Health, Nutrition, Indigenous Medicine and of Higher Education and Highways. As per the government's resolve, or more like, yes, indeed, resolve on abolishing CITEM, the new not-for-profit Sunset Institution will, in fact, absorb all students and will conclude operations when the last current batch of students graduate. No new students will be admitted to this entity, while the new non-for-profit Sunrise Institution will start accepting new students from 2019. Furthermore, the Neville Fernando Teaching Hospital will be transferred to the Ministry of Health, allowing the state medical sector to gain an asset of 3.2 billion rupees at no cost to the state. The solution was put forth to resolve concerns raised by several groups, which include CITEM's failure in meeting the required standard and that CITEM's profit motive will prevent the goal of creating good doctors.
You are watching Sri Lanka's award-winning news channel, Other Derana 24/7.
What I said was...
Welcome back. You're watching First at 9 on Other Derana 24/7. Now, the Central Bank Governor Dr. Indrajit Kumaraswamy insists that government should refrain from reburdening the balance sheets of state-owned Ceylon Electricity Board and Ceylon Petroleum Corporation when subsidising fuel and electricity. Delivering the monetary and financial sector roadmap for 2018, the CBSL governor pointed out that improving financial viability of state-owned enterprises will be key to mitigate budgetary implications for the government. The government expects to reduce the budget deficit to 3.5% of GDP by 2020 and thereby reduce government debt to a sustainable level in the medium term.
The central bank has already initiated several measures to enhance the economic stability of the country, and it will continue with this endeavour in the future as well. Given improved economic fundamentals and stability, it is expected that the government will implement the necessary policy reforms to uplift the economy from the prevailing low growth trajectory to reach its potential level. Automatic pricing mechanisms for fuel and electricity are expected to be introduced in March and September 2018 respectively. This will go a long way towards reducing the future financial losses of key SOEs and avoid large ad hoc adjustments in retail prices. Over 90% of the losses of the CPC and CEB, Mr. Badagoda is here, he will, I hope, endorse what I say, are due to the fact that the government compels these institutions to sell electricity and fuel below cost, to subsidize electricity and fuel. Now, one can argue that that is necessary, but that should be funded from the consolidated fund. If the government wants to subsidize fuel and electricity, it should not be put onto the balance sheets of the CEB and the CPC. And this is what successive governments have done. And they have ruined the balance sheets of the CEB and CPC. I think this should be stopped. Fine, if you want to subsidize, do so, but transfer from the consolidated fund to do that.
Now, oil rose to its highest since 2015 May today, supported by unrest in Iran that has raised concerns about supply risks, cold weather in the United States, which is boosting demand, and OPEC-led output cuts. 6 days of anti-government protests in OPEC's third largest producer have added a geopolitical risk premium to oil prices, although Iran's production and exports have not been affected. Brent crude, the international benchmark, was down 1 cent at $67.83 a barrel. It traded as high as $68.27 earlier in the session. US crude rose 15 cents to $61.78 and also touched the highest since May 2015. Now, Sri Lankan shares ended slightly weaker today amid heavy buying by foreign investors. The benchmark all-share price index lost 3.84 points to close at 6,459.66, while the S&P SL20 index gained 2.41 points to close at 3,745.26. The turnover was 1.49 billion rupees. Now let's cross over to Meshi Fernando from the Colombo Stock Exchange for the latest market update.
The market capitalization at the end of the day was 2,940.44 billion rupees. Today's foreign purchases were 1.33 billion rupees and foreign sales were 1.47 billion rupees. There were 8 crossings today and the crossing turnover was 1.19 billion rupees.
Time to look at news from across the world. Now, US President Donald Trump says that former White House aide Steve Bannon lost his mind after he lost his job. The president disavowed Bannon after he was quoted in a new book describing a meeting between Trump's son and a group of Russians as treasonous.
The Russians had offered Donald Trump Jr. damaging information on Hillary Clinton at the June 2006 meeting. Trump's lawyers have sent a cease and desist letter to Bannon. According to the statement, Trump said, quote, "Steve Bannon has nothing to do with me or my presidency. When he was fired, he not only lost his job, he lost his mind," unquote. Trump's lawyers said Bannon had broken his employment agreement by speaking to the book's author, Michael Wolff, about Trump and his family, which includes disclosing confidential information and making disparaging statements and, in some cases, outright defamatory statements about Trump, his family members and the company. Bannon, the president's former chief strategist, was considered a key player in the Trump White House and helped shape Trump's America First campaign message before he left his post in August. Meanwhile, with former White House advisor Steve Bannon describing President Donald Trump's eldest son Donald Jr. as treasonous, the White House labeled the accusation ridiculous.
I think that is a ridiculous accusation and one that I'm pretty sure we've addressed many times from here before. If anybody's been inconsistent, it's been him. Certainly hasn't been the president or this administration.
A rare winter storm hit the U.S. southeast, bringing Florida's capital its first snow in 3 decades and snarling travel, while New England braced for a bombogenesis blizzard forecast to bring heavy accumulations today.
The governors of Florida, Georgia, Virginia and North Carolina declared states of emergency, warning residents to expect icy roads and unseasonable freezing temperatures. The cold has been blamed for at least 9 deaths over the past few days, including 2 homeless people in Houston. The bombogenesis, an area of rapidly declining low pressure, will result in what's known as a bomb cyclone, which happens when a cyclone has a big drop in atmospheric pressure over a short period of time. Meanwhile, winter storms are sweeping across Western Europe, causing 3 deaths and widespread disruption. Tens of thousands of people have been affected by power cuts and air travel has been disrupted.
Let's now take a look at some other stories making news across the world. Australian authorities have recovered most of a seaplane that crashed near Sydney and killed 6 people. On Sunday, high-profile UK business leader Richard Cousins, 4 members of his family and a Canadian pilot died when the plane plunged into a river. After days of planning, police used divers and a crane to lift the wreckage in sections from a depth of 40 feet. The leaders of Lebanon's Iran-backed Hezbollah group said yesterday that Syrian war, now in its 7th year, will be finished in 1 or 2 years at most. In an interview with Lebanon's pro-Iran Al-Mayadeen channel, Syed Hassan Nasrallah also said Israeli strikes on Hezbollah positions in Syria did not and will not prevent supplies of weapons reaching the group. A dense fog caused by a cold wave disrupted normal life in parts of North India yesterday, posing problems in road travel and delaying trains. Temperatures in parts of India dip drastically during the months of December and January. A polar bear cub is born in Britain for the first time in 25 years, and it was confirmed by the Royal Zoological Society of Scotland. Keepers at the Highland Wildlife Park at Kincraig near Aviemore in northeastern Scotland said the bear mother went into labour just before Christmas, and the high-pitched noises coming from her maternity den confirmed she gave birth.
You are watching Sri Lanka's premier news channel, Other Derana 24/7.
Time for sports. Now, Sri Lanka cricket is set to announce the captain for the limited overs format on the 9th of January. Releasing a communique, SLC said that the decision was made following discussions held at the SLC headquarters between the selection committee and other officials.
Quoting President of Sri Lanka Cricket, Thilanga Sumatipala, it said that Angelo Matthews and Dinesh Chandimal are considered for the position by the selection committee. Sri Lanka lost the Test, ODI and T20 series during the tour of India, with Upul Taranga leading the side in the 50-over game, while Thisara Pereira led the team in the T20s. Meanwhile, as a part of head coach Chandika Hathurusingha's plan to revamp the national side, Dr. Phil Johnson, an Australian psychologist brought in to develop the players' performance levels, started working with the players yesterday. Dr. Jauncey will focus on identifying personality traits of each player, better communication and learning methods suited for each player and also for the coaching staff. He is currently working as the psychologist of the Australian baseball team and has also worked with the Queensland Bulls cricket team.
You are watching Sri Lanka's #1 news channel, Other Derana 24/7.
Katrina Chang is standing by at the Other Derana Weather Centre with your Forecast First evening edition.
Good evening and welcome to Forecast First. Now, temperatures are to vary between a mild 17 degrees Celsius extending to 30 degrees Celsius over the course of the next 24 hours. However, if you take a look at the map, you can see that due to the low precipitation, we can expect some very warm weather in most parts of the island, particularly in the northern region. If you can see that sunny skies are expected in Jaffna, Trincomalee and Patiklo. And if you move downwards, you can expect some cloudy weather in the areas of Hambantota and Matara and some warm weather in areas of Colombo, Galle and Kandy. That is it from your weather centre tonight. Let's now take a quick look at your city-by-city forecast.
And that's it from all of us at First at 9. Now, when you have time, make sure you connect with us on Facebook by going to facebook.com/first@9. And of course, you can follow us on Twitter by going to twitter.com/first@9. But before we go, we'd like to give you an insight to the lifestyle in Galle Fort. Today, Galle Fort has a multi-ethnic and multi-religious population which delivers vividity to culture. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.
Bringing you the news and information 24 hours a day. This is Sri Lanka's premier news channel, Other Derana 24/7.